Every single one of us is born with an ancient biological survival mechanism that is actively rigging the game against our modern potential. For thousands of years, the primary mandate of the human brain was remarkably simple: preserve energy, minimize risk, and avoid physical discomfort at all costs to keep the species alive. But in our modern world of infinite comfort, this exact survival mechanism has turned toxic. The moment you perceive a necessary, high-stakes task, a silent countdown begins in your neurology. You have exactly 5 seconds before your brain steps in to protect you from the perceived friction, deploying an army of excuses, doubts, and rationalizations designed to keep you safe, comfortable, and fundamentally weak. If you do not learn to outrun this 5-second window, you are willingly allowing your biology to default to mediocrity. You are running out of the luxury of time, and every single day you choose hesitation over action. You are letting an ancient script dictate your permanent stagnation. The psychological architecture of a man is fundamentally governed by an ancient biological contract that was designed to protect him, not to make him great. In our evolutionary past, hesitating before stepping out into the unknown was a vital survival mechanism that kept a man from being destroyed. Today, however, that same protective instinct misinterprets the friction of a difficult career choice or a demanding workout as a literal threat to life. When a man pauses for even 5 seconds, his brain automatically deploys hesitation to keep him safe, completely unaware that this manufactured safety is keeping him weak. A man's internal battle is won or lost in the silent neurological gap between an idea and its execution. The moment an impulse to lead, build, or conquer arises, a physiological timer starts ticking within his subconscious mind. In exactly 5 seconds, the brain begins flooding a man's consciousness with sophisticated rationalizations, turning an act of raw courage into a heavily calculated risk. This friction is not a sign of incompetence. It is a predictable chemical reaction designed to prioritize survival over growth. The tragedy is that most men mistake this biological hesitation for an authentic lack of readiness. Intellectualizing a decision is often a man's subconscious method of negotiating with weakness. When a man believes he is merely being logical, weighing pros and cons past that critical 5-second mark, he is actually handing his personal sovereignty over to his fears. The masculine psyche craves order, but overanalysis strips away his primal instinct to execute. By turning an immediate duty into a complex debate within his own mind, he rationalizes his inaction. This intellectual trap allows him to feel productive while remaining entirely stagnant, paralyzing the very leadership he is biologically built to project. A man's ability to lead himself depends entirely on his willingness to act before he feels emotionally ready. Modern conditioning has taught men to wait for a feeling of inspiration or safety before taking decisive action. But waiting for emotional alignment is a psychological trap because your brain will always default to comfort within that critical 5-second window. High-performing men do not wait for the mood to strike. They establish an internal command framework that prioritizes instinctive execution over transient feelings. When a man operates on command rather than emotion, he bypasses the neurological hesitation that breeds weakness. A man's self-confidence is not an inherited trait. It is a neurological receipt of the promises he keeps to himself. Every time an impulse for action strikes, and a man honors it within that critical 5-second window, he deposits trust into his subconscious mind. He tells his own biology that his word is absolute, creating an internal alignment that silences doubt. Conversely, When he hesitates, he teaches his brain that his intentions are meaningless, slowly eroding his mental foundation. True confidence emerges when immediate action becomes a man's default psychological reflex. By choosing to move before the brain can manufacture a convincing excuse, he reinforces a self-sustaining loop of personal authority. This behavior builds an unshakable belief in his capability, proving to his psyche that he can handle environmental friction. As this internal trust solidifies, he stops seeking external validation, anchoring his power in immediate execution. A man's true psychological strength is unlocked only when he stops acting for himself and begins executing for the sake of his tribe. When a man hesitates within that critical 5-second window, he isn't just making a private compromise with his own weakness. He is actively lowering the standard for everyone who relies on his leadership. The brain's primal desire for comfort tries to convince him that his personal delays don't impact the collective. But those who look up to him do not emulate his words. They mirror his tolerance for hesitation, absorbing his internal compromises as their new baseline. Leadership is deeply tethered to protection, and a man who constantly negotiates with his own comfort signals to his people that safety is more valuable than excellence. Forging an uncompromising standard requires a man to view his immediate execution as a biological shield for those under his care. Every time he ruthlessly shuts down internal doubt and moves before the 5-second timer expires, he creates an unyielding blueprint of reliability. His tribe needs to see a leader who cannot be corrupted by the modern temptation of convenience or immobilized by a fear of discomfort. By choosing friction over stagnation, he establishes a cultural rhythm where immediate action is understood as the ultimate form of stewardship.